Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with emergency ordinance number 20-A16. An emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during a COVID-19 disaster. The committee members who are actually present at this meeting are Dottie Martin, Linda White, Paula Paganakis, Gina Kelly. Who else did I forget?
Did you say Paula?
I said Paula.
Yeah.
And Betsy isn't here. And Neil is not present. Neil is not present tonight. County staff in attendance for this meeting are Carolyn Schaefer and Corey Kananopoulos. The persons responsible for receiving public comment. Hello?
I don't
Say
think you have
something.
enough quorum, do you?
I didn't hear you, Carolyn. What'd you say?
I don't think you have enough for a quorum.
Wait.
We have 6 members.
3, 4. We have 4 here.
You have
Four.
5. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what I count.
We have 2 missing. That's not enough for a quorum?
No. That's, well, is it
It's supposed to be half.
half plus 1? So you got,
We have that.
Yeah, we have half plus 1.
Dottie,
We have 5 out of 7.
Dennis.
yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Committee, so I said what members are in the committee, county staff in attendance for this meeting, the Carolyn Schaefer, Tori Kavanopoulos. The persons responsible for receiving public comment are the Village of Rivanna Community Advisory Committee. The opportunities for the public to access and participate in the meeting are posted on the Albemarle County calendar. Members, have you reviewed the meeting minutes or any corrections at this time? If not, I'll call on you to adopt the meeting minutes. Please, I need a motion to do that.
So moved. Paula?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are passed.
Tori, I'll send them to you tomorrow.
First thing we're going to cover are planning staff.
Can I
announcements.
interrupt? Dennis, before we go any further, I'd just like to ask, who is, Jessica, what is your role at Albemarle County?
Hi, my name is Jessica Hirsch-Bellering. I am a principal planner with transportation. I work with
Planning,
Kevin.
okay.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm sorry I didn't mention you. The first thing we're going to cover are planning standard staff announcements. Tori has some announcements to make. Tori?
Yes, thank you, Dennis. I'm going to pull up just one slide. So hopefully you all can see that okay. So this will be pretty brief, but we just wanted to give the CACs an update on meeting topics for the remainder of this calendar year. So we are looking to roll out a more structured approach for CAC agendas across all 7 of the CACs. And there are 2 main reasons for this approach. The first is that we're updating the county's comprehensive plan, and the same staff who staff the CACs are also leading that project. So we're trying to be more intentional and efficient with our time. And then the second is we want to encourage CAC members to participate in the comp plan workshops and meetings. So we're trying to have a staggered schedule to fit all of that in. So this is the tentative 2022 schedule for the rest of 2022. And what we're planning to do is have topics on alternating months. So just like this month where the topic is transportation. And we would set these up for each of the CACs with presentations and time for questions that are specific to each CAC. So for example, with the transportation presentation this month, it's focused on the Village of Rivanna CAC area. On the other alternating months, we would reserve time for community meetings. So those are for rezoning and special use permit applications when those come in. And if a community meeting is not needed that month, we would recommend canceling the CAC meeting. Again, the reason is that we want to line up our comp plan workshops with those off months so that we can encourage CAC members to participate. We'll have a variety of formats for those. Some of them will probably be mostly virtual in the beginning, but hopefully in the near future, we can move to more in-person formats as well. In May, we would cover climate action planning and a budget overview, as the board will have likely just adopted the county's budget. In June and August, we have time set aside for community meetings and also for CACs to choose their own topics of interest. July is planned as summer recess, which we've done for a couple years now, and this aligns with the Board of Supervisors taking a meeting off that month, gives people time to travel as well. September would be Parks and Green Systems. October would be a community meeting if needed. November would be Economic Development, and then December would be a community meeting if needed. Also wanted to mention that in the proposed budget, there is a request for 2 new staff members. So they would staff and support the CACs and be separate from the comp plan team. And in the meantime, we're hoping the schedule provides some flexibility, that it covers the main topics of interest for the CACs and also addresses current staff capacity needs. So we're planning to do a check-in at the end of this year to see how the schedule went and see what kind of changes we all want to make going forward. So that's just high-level overview. Happy to try to answer any questions if there are any.
I don't understand exactly what you said. Take the May meeting. Does that mean the May meeting will be us listening and staff talking?
So the idea is for those topics month, there would be a staff presentation. So similar to this month, these are the topics that have come up most frequently across all 7 of the CACs. So trying to take the varied interests and cover all topics. But again, the presentations would be focused on each of the CACs areas and leave time for members to ask questions specific to their area as well.
How long will those presentations be?
So probably around 40 to 45 minutes each, leaving time included in that as well.
Oh, so there'll be time in each meeting for us to conduct our business.
If the CAC would like to have additional topics, can
We
still
will,
do that.
believe me.
I do want to note that staff is only able to provide staff support for these topics, but if the CAC wants to, without staff support, discuss other topics, they're certainly welcome to do so.
Okay, fine, that's fine. Any questions from any of the members?
So what does that mean, staff support? Managing Zoom?
No, that will still be provided, but additional support to cover other topics.
Is the intention, do you think, since the Board of Supervisors is going to go to live meetings, that our meetings will be live also?
That I'm not sure about. I'm assuming the board will talk about that more upcoming. I think initially it's just starting with board and planning commission.
Donna, would you know? Is Donna here?
She's
Was.
on the phone.
Fred, would you know?
Sir, I don't.
Dennis, I can quickly try and respond there. So Tori is correct. Initially, it is only going to be the board and planning commission that are going to the live meetings, and that starts in April. And then after that, the CACs will be on a different schedule, so they're going to continue to review it. But it's still in April, you will be virtual until we can find a way that we can do it, that we can actually hold hybrid meetings so that it could be virtual and also in person with the CACs. The planning commission and the board have that ability because they are actually in the county office building where we have that technology.
Okay, I imagine they'll get into more detail in that before our next meeting, correct?
We'll look at it. We'll look into it and we can get back
Okay.
to you.
Thank you.
It was my understanding last week when I came for training that all meetings are going to end up being hybrids. There's going to have to be a way for you all to meet where everything is set up, but I don't know what that's going to look like at this point. I don't know. I'm sure that doesn't answer your question.
So Tori, for the next meeting, are you going to prepare the agenda and then I will overlay on it?
Yeah, you all can use the same template and choose if you want to hold a meeting or not. I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a special use permit or rezoning community meeting. I think it would have had to come in by now, but I'll double check on that at the end of the month.
Well,
So-
I need to know the details in the form of an agenda for your presentation in April. Because we have committee business I want to have on that also.
Oh, sure. So the April meeting, there's no set topic for that. For the May meeting, I'll provide you with that, with how long those presentations will take and who will be attending.
Okay,
But April, yeah, there's no planned presentation.
okay. Any other questions of Tori?
Nope.
Dennis, I just have a question. I mean, that would be wonderful if we could always have both options, Zoom or in person, because if you can't be in town, hopefully you could still attend on Zoom. I think it's a wonderful idea.
I think it's a good idea too, but we have more and more people attending our meetings, and I think it's less likely that they'll participate on Zoom actually than in person because they're neighbors, and I think they're more likely to come and see who's representing them and who the supervisors are and all of that.
That's good.
I hope we can get to live one soon.
Okay. Let's proceed to the next topic. Kevin is our guest tonight, planning manager of community development. I've asked Kevin to come here for two reasons. First, Carolyn, if you would go to pages 49 of the master plan and show that on the screen.
Dennis, I actually have a presentation with a little bit of background and also project updates on it that I was going to go ahead and run through for you all. And then we can, what I don't cover in that presentation, we could talk about through looking at that. If that works for you.
You were going to project that master plan page.
Not specifically that master plan page, but I have a list of the projects that we're working on. And I also wanted to kind of give a little bit of a background on transportation planning for those of you who may not fully understand, how we work through the transportation planning process in Albemarle County.
Some of the members are newer, and I kind of wanted them to see what is on that page also. Is it possible to do both? Have you make your presentation, have Karen project that?
Absolutely. What I'll do is I can run through this presentation and I'll do it quickly for you so that you can get to what you want to talk about. But
Okay.
there'll be plenty of time at the end. And if Carolyn has that page, she can bring it up and we can walk through it. But I think
Sounds good, Kevin.
some of the same topics will be covered while I'm
Okay.
talking.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and get started. And once again, my name is Kevin McDermott and I'm a planning manager here at Albemarle County. I am going to share this screen and if you could give me a thumbs up if this switches to the presentation view. Did that switch to presentation view for you?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see your slides.
Oh, you're still looking at the slides?
Right.
Okay, it always takes me a minute to figure out exactly which screen I'm supposed to be sharing. So let me try that again. And
I
Now, did
see
it-
both. You just have to push it out if you want to get rid of the slides, right? I see both.
You should see one screen that just shows the slide. Is that what you're looking at right
Right.
now?
One
Yeah.
slide, another slide to the side. Yes.
Yes,
The same
It
thing.
is-
again.
No,
It's not in
no,
presentation view, Kevin.
no.
It's not. Okay, thank you. Let me do that one more time. Jessica, if you could just give me like a thumbs up when it does go to presentation view, I just.
Sure. You're in presentation view now.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So, and I also, as Jessica said, Jessica's the principal planner transportation, working here in the office with me, and she and I do most of the work on the transportation program. So this is just a quick update. I'm going to start with a few slides just on background on how we do transportation planning. I'll stop for a little bit and let you ask questions if you have any. Then I'll go through some of the existing projects that we have going on, and we can stop after that and take questions about those projects. Then we'll move to the master plan that Dennis would like to go through. So the agenda of what I'm going to be walking through are where do the projects come from, how projects are chosen, how we pay for the projects, how those projects get scheduled, and then what projects are being worked on right now. So to start with the early planning process. So the way we identify projects is they come at us from all areas. And some of the primary ways we see those are through our work with the Virginia Department of Transportation. They are pretty much constantly evaluating and monitoring road conditions for safety, operations, and congestion. And we work together. We have regular meetings with them, regular communication to see if they've identified problems out there in the county on the transportation network. Second, staff track the development to identify the development's effect on transportation. So that involves if there's really large projects, such as rezonings and special use permits, then we will require those developers to submit transportation impact analyses that evaluate and model the impact of that additional traffic onto the network. So once we see those, we will try and identify if we need that developer to possibly provide any proffers or anything like that that would help address those impacts. Another way we evaluate transportation is working with the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They develop a long-range transportation plan that looks out over 20 years throughout the whole county, and they do traffic counts, and then they estimate the growth of that traffic based on development patterns and past growth, and model that and come up with areas that they think that transportation network will be constrained by congestion. So we review that, and those identify a lot of the projects that we move forward with. And then finally, through the development of the comprehensive plan, master plans, and corridor plans, which look at the land use and proposed land use and see how that might impact transportation. And in that method, we really look to the community to help us, as you all had in the past helped update your master plan. We take that feedback from you, and we look at how those proposals for changes in land use might impact transportation, and then we come up with those lists of projects that we want to recommend for improvements to the transportation network. Next, we go into the project prioritization. So Albemarle County staff regularly updates the list of transportation priorities. This list is used to direct the staff resources and funding to those projects we've identified as being the highest priorities. All the projects that are identified through all of those various planning processes that I just discussed are then included in this master list of transportation priorities. So that list, the last time we did that was a few years ago. I think it's coming up on 3 years now. There were over 80, almost 90 projects, I think, in total throughout all of Albemarle County that were identified in all of those plans. So we take that list and then we evaluate them by more quantitative metrics to see what we should be putting our staff resources and funding to. And those metrics include safety, and that involves looking at crashes, congestion. So we look at that model data, at the transportation impact analyses, at volume and capacity on roadways. Economic development, through that we look and see where economic development is being focused in the county, and we try and support that economic development. Accessibility, we look at jobs and how people get to jobs in the county, and making sure that people that are traditionally underserved have access to jobs in the county. Then we look at land use. So all of our recommendations from the master plans, we look at things like school access there, transit access, bicycle and pedestrian access, things like that. That's how we look at the land use. And then finally, we're going to look at environmental impacts of transportation networks. So we're trying to reduce our greenhouse gases as is recommended in our Albemarle County environmental planning processes. And then also if there's going to be specific impacts from transportation improvements that may affect protected species or lands that we consider highly valued. So we take all of that and we rank every project in the county to come up with this list. And we typically try and work generally from the top down, although that doesn't mean we have to do number 1 first or number 2 first. We're really looking for opportunities to do those highest prioritized projects. So if a specific grant program opens up that may give us an opportunity to say, go after number 5 on that list, we could go after number 5 before we go after number 1. Or if there's developers that want to partner with us on projects, then we can switch that around, but we tend to try and go for those highest priorities, especially when we're looking to spend county dollars. What you see here are the projects in the Village of Rivanna area that have been prioritized or identified in different planning documents. The ones with the numbers are the ones that were prioritized in the last update to this list. The ones that just have letters are ones that have been added since then. So that's why you see, say, the letter PAE at Milton and 250, that intersection. There's a study going on right now that I'll talk about a little bit more that is looking at an intersection that identified that is a significant both congestion and safety issue. So we want to make sure that we prioritize that if we're going to try and move forward with putting any funding or county resources to an improvement on that at that intersection. I'll stop there and just see if anyone has any questions about anything I've gone over so far or these projects. And like I said, I will get into some more detail about some of the specific projects on this list. But if you have general questions, I'm happy to take them. No questions so far. I can keep moving then. Wonderful.
No, Dottie has a question.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see the hand. Please.
The host muted me. My question is, you said Albemarle MPO looks long range, like
Yes.
20 years out.
Yeah, the long range transportation plan looks out 20 years.
Okay, in what they are looking now, 20 years, have they do they have anything for 250?
Yes, they do. 250 has been identified as a constrained roadway on the plan. I'm not specifically sure exactly where it ranked as far as that, but I can direct you to the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO website where you can look at that document and see those projects that were identified.
Where did they identify on 250?
I'm actually not sure specifically where that was, what was identified there, but, Jessica, have you had a chance to, do you know that by any chance? In your
I don't have that.
research?
I can look it up while we're talking.
Okay,
Great.
wonderful. Yeah,
Thank
my,
you.
but I will say that that the county, even apart from what the MPO has identified, the county has identified these projects that you see here, such as the corridor project of listed as number 39 here. That was one that was identified. And then, like I mentioned, the intersections with the green dots on them, those have all been identified as problem intersections, likely related. I think all of those are related to congestion problems that we're aware of.
Kevin, what is the priority number? That's the gateway, the priority numbers that have the best chance of being considered by the state. For example, 250 East widening is number 39. What does that really say? That it's not in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or what? Or does it move up each year?
It would, the number 39 is a county specific ranking. So that's not ranked by the state. However, I will say that our prioritization process matches the state's process for smart scale funding. So if a project scores highly on our priorities, then we expect it would score highly through the state's smart scale funding process, which I will talk a little bit more about on the next few slides when I get into some funding processes. But it's hard to say. So every time we redo this priority, it would go up. Right now, we've actually got funding for the projects, the project rank number 2 on there and number 3 on there. So those 2 projects will be taken off the priority list the next time we update it, meaning that it's likely that 39 could move up. But we'll have to do that evaluation to find out exactly where.
The problem I have with smart scale ranking is in the category of economic development. We always score low in economic development in our area because there is none really. But the problem is it's a main artery to an economic development area from other areas, and it's heavily commuted. So we get penalized because we don't have economic development as a prime consideration. How do we address that?
So it depends on the type of project. So if different projects can use a different buffer area around what we call the project boundary. So which is basically the area where the improvement would occur. And so some projects like the interchange project at I-64 and 250, I believe that one was able to look out for a 3-mile radius to see if there was any economic development within there. So that's sort of how they get to that. Projects, like if there were, say, a widening project that we recommended, that would have a larger buffer area, and it likely would include some of those economic development projects that we see in the Pantops area. So that is one way that we can try and get more points for some of these projects. The other way is that if the county decides a project is ranked really high in our priorities, but it's having a hard time getting scored in smart scale. Well, smart scale is not the only funding source for one, but I'll also say that the way smart scale ranks is that it's a cost to benefit analysis. And if the county wanted to put in local funding to offset some of that total project cost, then that would increase the score. So if we have a project that ranks really high, but doesn't look like it would score well in smart scale, then the county board of supervisors, through what we refer to as the transportation leveraging program in the CIP, can add local funding to that project to increase the score.
Kevin, I have 2 things. One, staff Betsy Baton just came in and she's listed as an attendee. And two, to you, Kevin, you mentioned a resource that you would provide. I missed what it was that we could look into deeper earlier.
The MPO website.
Yes, the Charlottesville Albemarle Metropolitan Planning Organization. I mentioned that because you can find the most recently updated long-range transportation plan there, which identifies projects based on their modeling program.
Great. I just couldn't understand what you had said, so thank you.
What is the website? What's the address?
I'll have to send that. I'll have to pull that and maybe Jessica, you could put that in. Do we have a chat available for this? No.
Okay.
Why don't you just look it up and tell us?
Okay, here it is. It is Campo, CAMPO .tjpdc.org.
PJP.
tjpdc.org.
Thank you.
And I can send these out by email after the meeting also, if that would help.
Good, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, I'll keep moving. So I just wanted to go through some of those funding mechanisms that I mentioned. These are the ones that we use most often in Albemarle County. Smart Scale, as I just mentioned, is really the primary funding source for transportation projects throughout the state. And we can apply either through the Culpeper District, which is the VDOT district we have, or for statewide funding. There's typically lots of money available in both of those, and we make applications, up to 4 applications every 2 years. It's a biannual cycle, so you can only submit projects every 2 years. 2022 is a submission year, and I will talk a little bit about some projects we're looking to submit that we are working on right now. And this process, is we discussed a little bit, uses those same 5 factors that we identified. It has slightly different metrics, but uses those same 5 factors that we identified, and it scores projects based on that cost benefit analysis. So it gives you a benefit score, and then it takes a cost score and divides it into there, and that's how they total the projects. And typically, the state starts with the highest ranked scoring project in there and works its way down until it runs out of money. And that's how you get projects funded through Smart Scale. The revenue sharing program is less competitive. It requires a 50-50 match. So you need to provide 50% of that project cost out of local funding, and then the state will provide the other 50%. And there's a $10 million maximum per application cycle, and also per project. So you can't keep going back in multiple applications trying to build up money for one really large project. So that is once again on a biannual cycle. We did one in 2021. So the next revenue sharing application cycle will be in 2023. Transportation Alternatives is on that same biannual cycle as revenue sharing. And this is a federal program that focuses on non-motorized travel choices, such as bicycle and pedestrian projects. They are actually typically smaller projects because there's a smaller pot of funding available for them within the Culpeper District. Those projects typically tend to be under $1 million, whereas most of our roadway projects are many millions of dollars. And then finally, the secondary 6-year plan, which is an allocation that the state gives the county primarily to be used for paving unpaved roads, although there is some additional funding in the secondary 6-year plan called telefee money that the county has a little bit more flexibility to use on projects. However, that's only a few $100,000. So we do use that sometimes to add to a project, to like a revenue sharing project, or to accomplish smaller things.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Do projects that involve the revenue sharing program, are they only eligible in projects that have been submitted on smart scale? Or can they be projects that are lower down and not submitted on smart scale that the county is willing to fund 50%?
They don't have to be smart scale projects. It's
Okay,
a
thank
separate program entirely. There are some requirements that has to have been identified in the state VTrans process is a need, just a need. And there's a lot of projects that the county has identified as needs just based on the area. It's a pretty broad category. So most projects would fit into that. If it's not identified as a need in VTrans, you can still submit it. However, they basically fund these in groups. So projects that were previously funded with revenue sharing projects or revenue sharing funds that you want to add on to, those are the first batch that they would fund. Then projects that have been identified as VTrans needs or projects specifically identified in the Albemarle County Capital Improvement Plan, and then projects that haven't been identified in any of those previously. And so they fund all the first category first, second category next, and third category, but they often run out of money before they can fully fund this third category.
Okay.
The next list of funding mechanisms that we use a little less frequently are the state of good repair funds. These are typically done by VDOT, and they are projects that have been identified as needing rehabilitation or replacement, such as bridges or major pavement problems. Those are the types of things that the state would fund through state of good repair. We can discuss with VDOT and try and get them to fund certain projects, but these are really identified by VDOT staff based on condition of the facility. Highway Safety Improvement Program. These are improvements related to safety, and they have to have been identified through a VDOT process as a safety problem. So they're typically done. It's a data-driven approach, and they typically look at more comprehensive projects along a corridor rather than small specific projects. But that is another option for funding. And then there's other federal and state funding opportunities, such as the federal RAISE program, which is what used to be called Tiger, and Build, I think, was another name for it. But that's usually funded at the federal level through the transportation bills that you see, the federal government fund, Land Water Conservation Fund, Federal Land Access Program. There's various other smaller funding pots that we can pull from that we're always on the lookout for funding opportunities and projects that fit them. And then finally, sorry, let me go back there. The Capital Improvement Program, as I mentioned previously, that's our local funding for capital projects that the board approves. And we have an allocation in there called the Transportation Leveraging Fund. The board has consistently put funding in there for us to use. And what we try and use that for is to fund, say, the 50% from revenue sharing. Or if we, like I mentioned, if we want to try and get a smart scale project to score a little bit higher than it looks like it would, we can add some local funding to that. Occasionally, we do projects that are entirely locally funded, and that capital improvement program would be the source of that funding. And then finally, developer funded and constructed improvements. As I mentioned, when we have large developments, very often the developer will, if it's a rezoning, offer a proffer that includes funding for transportation or actual construction of a transportation improvement. As you know, like this is similar to Breezy Hill constructing the shared use path along 250 of their development. So that's the type of thing that we'd see, not to mention that the actual network of roads internal to those developments are also all constructed by the developer. So just a quick thing about project implementation. So there's really 3 phases to project development. It starts with the planning and design, then the right-of-way phase, and then finally the construction phase. Depending on where that funding comes from, it often takes different amounts of time to do the projects. That's for a lot of reasons. One, because with some projects such as Smart Scale, which can take anywhere from 8 to 11 years, there is a lag time between when the project is awarded funding and when it actually receives that funding. As I mentioned, there's a 6-year plan for state funding projects, and every 2 years, they really just fill in those back 2 years of that 6-year plan. So very often you have to wait 3, maybe even 4 years before you see $1 of that funding through Smart Scale. And that's why that kind of project can take 8 to 11 years. Revenue sharing, typically smaller projects, and they don't have that lag time right now. And those can take a little bit less time. And then, as I mentioned, locally funded, we never have to wait for state funding for those things. We can get going on those right away. We often do that with smaller projects. So those usually can go for only 3 to 5 years before from the planning level to finishing construction. Now I'm just going to get into a little bit of the project updates on some significant projects in your area that we've been working on. I'm going to start with what's referred to as the VDOT pipeline project study. So this has been a project that's been going on for a number of months now that VDOT and Albemarle County stakeholders have been working on. You all may have seen a public input survey that was out about these a while ago. This is a process that's being led by VDOT, and the projects were identified through that VTrans state transportation plan that I had mentioned to you earlier. And so it's looking at the Milton 250 intersection and then also the adjacent intersection. And right now, what they're recommending, this is a concept of what the Milton US 250 intersection could look like. Their recommendation is to improve that to a roundabout. So remove that signal, make it a roundabout, and this could be a Smart Scale grant that we are proposing to submit this year. So there will be some more information coming on this. VDOT is still working on finalizing the details of it. As I mentioned, this is just a concept that you see right here. They'll get a little bit more work done on that concept before we submit it for the applications over the next few months. And then if it's awarded funding, like I said, there'll probably be a little bit of a lag time, but then they'll actually get into the detailed design of it at that time and move to construction. So that's the proposal for the 250 Milton intersection.
So that could be 8 to 11 years before it's done,
It could be, yes. I
or
will
before
say
it's
that,
even started.
no, 11 years would, I think, be the absolute maximum. If it were funded, it would be the maximum that you would ever have to wait. I would not see this project taking that long. I think this one, because we've already done a bunch of the planning, so that timeline would have started a while back. I think that from submittal to finishing construction, you'd probably say 6 years is closer to the maximum. It could be done slightly shorter than that or slightly longer than that, but maybe around, if it were funded, I'd say 2028 time frame.
Kevin, I attended the Smart Scale presentation by, I think Charlie Kellogg was his name, from VDOT, is that correct?
Chuck Proctor.
Chuck
Yeah,
Proctor.
Chuck Proctor, yes.
And I asked Chuck whether there had been a traffic study made of that area recently, and he said yes. So I said, can you refer me to it? And he gave me a website which was unobtainable. So then I called up the Smart Scale office and talked to a gentleman there and asked him to send it to me, and he said he would by email. I never received it, never received any further word. to your knowledge, has a traffic study ever been made of that area recently?
Yes, they did do a traffic evaluation that looked at existing conditions as well as conditions with the proposed improvements they have. I know they have that document as I've seen it. Let me reach out and see if I can provide a copy to you or to the entire group.
That'd be excellent.
So let me make note to check with them to see if I can send that to you.
It's interesting, last Wednesday, I just happened to be in that area at time of peak times. There were 45 cars backed up on Route 250 approaching that proposed traffic circle. And it was going up almost 9/10 of a mile, that line. There were 18 cars approaching from Milton Road on the south. And so I was wondering if, and I guess I'll find out whether that traffic study actually captured those particular situations, because it seems to me to be a real problem to get 45 cars plus 15 or 18 cars through that roundabout going to a 2-lane bridge with a traffic light at the other end. So I know that we're in early stages of study and they're going to do more of it, but right now it seems very problematical.
Yeah, I've asked the same questions of the team that's looking at this, and I want to make sure if we're going to go after a grant for this project, that it is actually going to improve the situation. The best we can do is use the models that they have and run it through there and see if it works. And so we're having them do that right now, and we'll hopefully have an answer for that. Hopefully prior to submission of these projects.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The next one is part of the same study, is looking at the Route 22 intersection just to the east of that Milton Road where I was just talking. And I did start with the one closest to the Village of Rivanna, and I'm going to continue moving out to the east from there. So that's you're going to notice that as we move through these. But the proposal for this one is an interesting one. This is one of the innovative intersections that VDOT has us evaluate for to see if they would improve the situation out there. This is called a displaced left turn intersection. And so what this does is it separates the people making a left turn to go north on 22 from the through traffic prior to getting to the intersection. Can you all see my cursor? Is that
yes?
Okay,
yes.
Great. So this area right here, what you're seeing is the people that want to go north on 22 would get in this left lane, and there would be a signal here, and that signal would turn green and allow them to cross over the traffic that is heading westbound on 250. So that westbound traffic would be stopped there at that light, and this northbound to 22 traffic would cross over them and then be able to go up here and make a left without having to continue to stop that eastbound traffic heading through here. So it would be able to make a left. These people heading south wanting to make a left would have to be stopped while they're doing that, but these people would be able to keep going through, as well as the people on this side. So that allows them to clear that left turn traffic much more easily than through a traditional intersection. I can provide, I know this can be a little confusing, but I could provide there's a video on VDOT's website that shows how that would operate. But they've modeled this, and it really does move traffic through the intersection much more rapidly. It also stops the traffic to allow some of that southbound 22 to eastbound 250 traffic to get out of here, and continues allowing that westbound traffic movement. So the models right now are very promising for this. They look like it would work. They're just like the roundabout, they're continuing to work on that to make sure that we have the appropriate information and to see if this is a good solution for this intersection. But this is what they are looking at.
Where do we see that video?
I will send a link to it. It's if you were, we have, and this includes the roundabouts and anything. There's a web page on VDOT's website that you can get to if you just Google VDOT innovative intersections. And if in the page that will bring up for you has a list of very creative intersections, including roundabouts, displaced left turns like I showed here, diverging diamonds like what they're building at I-64 and 250, and it has information, and then it also has videos, graphics that show how those intersections operate. It's really interesting if you're interested in this kind of creative solutions to transportation projects. So
Kevin, I was
Yes.
very excited when I saw that there was something planned for this intersection, and I was totally shocked to see that it was left turn up 22 rather than the merge coming off of 22, that there's almost daily people run off the road in accidents, and they haven't done a gosh darn thing to alleviate that problem. I was hoping for a light that would just stop them and then cause them to turn left, because the blending of that traffic is a nightmare. So I just kind of laugh every time I look at this, because I think they're not seeing the more major problem and addressing it.
I actually asked Charlie Proctor that question at the Smart Scale meeting, and he said that intersection where people are blending into 250 but 22 will be signalized. That's all he said. He said to control that traffic.
What does that
They-
mean?
They could do that, and that's if you see this white line here, that's a stop bar. So that is definitely an option. Is that they could require that traffic to stop, and what they'll do is they'll model that to see if that's a necessary component of this. So it could be a merge just like it is, or it could be a stop controlled or a signal controlled movement.
If they don't stop there, it's not going to fix anything.
Right. That's the main problem.
That's the major problem.
I'm a small black car and I get run off the road more than 50% of the time. I mean, off the road, and I'm coming straight down and they're coming off at 22. I have the right of way and I'm off the road 7 out of 10 times.
Well, we'll continue to look at this and see how that works. It does look like that right now, this initial proposal does have that stop bar. So my assumption is they must be thinking that they're going to have to control that with a stop.
Thank you.
They did look at extending this much further so that you would have a lot more room to merge, but they found out that wasn't really going to provide the kind of benefit that something like this would.
No, the people coming off 22 just don't even realize you're there. They don't
They
even
speed
realize
up.
the merge. Yeah.
What is a stop bar?
Stop bar is just the white line that shows you're supposed to stop there.
It says
it's,
stop. It says stop.
the one on the pavement. So if there's a white line across the pavement where you're supposed to stop at, that's called a stop bar. And
That's not going to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Well,
used to
I mean,
have a stop sign there and they totally didn't pay any attention to it.
Yeah, well, we only put a stop bar if it's controlled stop. So they wouldn't just leave a stop bar and expect people to recognize a pavement marking. That would be accompanied by a signal or possibly a stop sign. But I'm not sure exactly. But we are continuing to work on this. So we'll see how that what the results of the modeling come to show.
So this is in the planning stages. Is that correct?
Yes, it is in the planning stages right now, with the expectation that we would submit a project for Smart Scale this year at this location.
So if you submit it this year, this is 2022, and it's going to take 8 to 11 years. That is all the way up to 33, 34, that this might be done.
Similar to what I described with the timeline for the roundabout. When I say 8 to 11 years, that's really a maximum. And I consider that to have already started with the planning. I don't think that these kind of projects are going to take 8 to 11 years. I would say at a maximum, it would be 6 years from the 2022, or I'm sorry, from the 2023 submittal would be the maximum until construction was ready. So until construction was complete. So maybe 2029, but it is always hard to say specifically because of the way the funding cycles work. We'd have to wait and see if it got awarded money and how they scheduled that after that. And that's dependent on how much money the state's getting for transportation funds as well.
Okay.
Kevin, meanwhile, if you put a camera there, not only could the recordings be used to study the problem, but put a camera there and $1,000 fine if you don't yield. They've got to do something because that is the problem.
Yeah, please take back to the people that are working on this, that people coming off of 22 onto 250 going into Charlottesville, that's the main problem. It's not the people turning left
Yeah,
going up 22.
absolutely.
Exactly.
That
Absolutely.
backs up somewhat, but it's not bad at all. The main problem is, so please take that back to the planners and tell them that's what they need to work on. And there needs to
Working
be
on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
We absolutely will do that, but the intent of this recommendation is to address both those problems. So
But this does not address that other problem. It's the same as it is now.
If
Yeah.
they determine that it needs to stop that traffic, would it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That would be-
that is
that would be
still part of what
huge.
that is still part of something they're looking at here. So yes.
Kevin, when
Thank
one
you.
is coming off 250 east down to Emmett Street, and you go down the hill to Emmett Street, there's a light there, and a light flashes. It's either red, green, or flashing yellow.
Mhm.
And that controls traffic going on to Emmett Street from the 250 exit. That's something that we suggested before, and apparently has gotten not a response from VDOT. But that really should be considered. That's a type of signalization that would control traffic. If traffic is heavy on 250 going west, that light would stay red.
Yeah, absolutely. Say if we determine that we haven't identified the correct solution here, if it were to not get funded for some reason, then I think that we would move to looking for interim solutions such as improvements at the signals. We have looked at that before. You're correct that we think that we could upgrade those signals and make significant improvements to the traffic flow out here. What you're describing, the permissive left turn is what they call that,
Right.
where it flashes yellow. It's being implemented throughout Albemarle County at lots of intersections. I think this could probably be a really good candidate for that. So that is something we will look into, especially if we are not successful with getting a more significant improvement out of these intersections.
Anything more to your presentation, Kevin?
I was going to talk, I was just going to give a quick update on some of the other projects that are actually already funded. And some of these are also projects that are out of the master plan. So just to want to make sure that you all know what's going on with them. Oops, I went the wrong way there. So the diverging diamond interchange that I mentioned at 250 and I-64, as you all know very well, it's under construction and they're moving along on that pretty rapidly. Right now, the expectation is that would be finished towards the end of this year, early next year. So that's what we're looking at with the timeline on that. End of 2022, early 2023. As part of those pipeline projects, we also are looking at the 250 corridor between the I-64 interchange all the way up there, really to Rolkin Road. Through that area, they recently did an upgrade of all the signalization in there. And when they did their preliminary analysis right after that, the preliminary analysis for this study, after they had made those improvements, they really found that that there's not really a lot of hangups on that section right now. After you get through the interchange, you can move through this section of 250 really well. It seems to be carrying traffic. So we're not looking at significant upgrades here. What we are looking at is some control of some of the minor street approaches, like where Peter Jefferson Parkway, some signal upgrades and turning movement upgrades there. We are looking at potential park and ride lots in this area that we could get people, that we could connect to transit service and get people out of their cars. Also pedestrian improvements, including possibly a at-grade pedestrian crossing at Rolkin. So small improvements in this section, and some of those may be the subject of smart scale submissions this round as well. Once again, went the wrong way. In the last round of smart scale, we had corridor improvements on US 250 approved for funding. And that goes from essentially the Route 20 intersection in Pantops all the way up to Hanson Road, where I showed you before. And what this is doing is going to close that open left turn lane down the middle of that to improve safety. We see a lot of crashes out there because people try and jump out into the left lane, and it's a confusing area. In heavily traveled corridors, that open left lane causes a lot of safety problems and also can cause congestion problems. So this would close that and direct any turning movements to specific turn locations. Some of those would be equipped for U-turns, so that if you needed to make a right turn coming off out of a business or a minor street, you would have to go down and make a U-turn to get the other direction if that's what you're trying to go. So those projects are funded, and they are actually working on the survey for that right now. It is still probably not going to start construction until around 2025. But they're still doing the early analysis or the early design of this. So we're not specifically sure about that construction timeline, but maybe around 2025. And they are trying to time that with another funded project now at Route 250, Route 250 and Route 20. This, just so you recognize, this is turned, so north is actually to the right. You can see Route 20 right here, Stony Point Road right here, and this is 250. But there's intersection improvements recommended here that would upgrade all the signals, add additional turn lanes, add a pedestrian crossing of 250 right here. And those improvements would help the traffic flow along 250 significantly because of those signal upgrades. They can run dual movements with the new signals and those new turning lanes. So they're trying to time both this project and the corridor improvements all together for hopeful construction beginning in the 2025 timeframe.
Kevin?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering, out our way, by, the village of Rivanna on 250, I do see some people who ride bikes and walk all the way down to the Pantops area for work. And I wondered if there's any biking or pedestrian improvements on the plans anywhere on the horizon, this area.
We don't have, aside from the improvements that Breezy Hill has proffered, we do not have specific bike ped improvements out in the village of Rivanna area. I think that's a great suggestion. We can look at that in our through the comp plan process and see if we can find some projects that we could move on out there. The issue is that is a long stretch between the village of Rivanna and Pantops. So any projects to improve bike ped access would be big projects that have to make that full connection. So we can, a lot of times on those, we break them up into segments, say starting in Pantops. And once we get it ready in Pantops, we'll move to the next section and the next section on, but slowly work our way out. I do know that, this isn't really for walking to work or anything, but I know that Parks and Rec is looking at the Rivanna Trail or along the river is a recreational walking path, and trying to make improvements to connect from the village of Rivanna, or from at least Milton right now, from the Milton intersection all the way out to, or all the way into town on the Rivanna Trail. So that is
Oh.
something they're looking at.
So there's not really
Wow.
any near time hope for anybody who doesn't have a car out this way to be able to get into where a workplace might be.
Unfortunately, no near-term hope, but we will, I really appreciate the suggestion. And I think that's something, as we move into this comprehensive plan process, there will be a multimodal plan component of that. And that would be a great time for us to start looking at how we can make those connections.
Thank you.
And-
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that was the end of my portion of the presentation. So I was going to, I can keep answering questions about any of the projects I talked about, or we can look at the sheets that you wanted to show from the comprehensive plan, however you want to move forward.
It seems like your presentation covered that also, because everything you didn't cover, we should eliminate from the master plan, because it's not going to be done in 5 years. So I appreciate your presentation, because you just basically covered what would be a chance to get done in 5 years, and what would. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct. To get projects to get done in 5 years are really the ones that we've talked about. Now, if you
Right.
want to look out the longer timeline, then there could be lots of other improvements. Also, as I'll pull up the
Yeah.
larger overview map of all the projects that have been identified. So as I said, a lot of these are already underway. Number 2, number 3, those are already underway. The one PZ, which was the Virgin Diamond, that's underway. We're looking at the 2 PAB and PAE, the 2 intersections that you see right in the center. The other ones that we have not, that are not identified, they're not actually in current planning processes, include, like I said, the corridor improvements between the interchange and Route 22. Now, to be honest with you, we may find that 2 lanes is sufficient as long as we can move vehicles through these intersections at the ends. So if we can make improvements there, it may allow that traffic to move so well that we don't need to do any improvements on the corridor. But we'll have to wait and see how that works out. So that might be a project to look at. I also have another project that is in your master plan outside of your area, which is the Black Cat Road 250 intersection. There is a recommendation in your master plan to add, I believe, turning lanes. So that's one that we will prioritize in this next update of the list. So that's what I have.
Should we include that? Should we include that in our master plan update, PAF?
I think that would be yeah, sure. It was in their last one, and unless you think that it's gotten significantly better out there without us doing anything, then I would say add it to consideration. I have a feeling it's something we will look at through once again, the multimodal component of the comprehensive plan.
I have one comment and one question.
Mm-hmm.
I have forwarded to you, as I forwarded to every member of the committee, and Donna Price and Fred Missel, the minutes of the 2009 Planning Commission review of our master plan back then. And it's depressing to see that the same transportation problems that existed then 13 years ago still exist now. So we desperately need another study done of the East Albemarle sub-area region in terms of traffic. The last one that was done was 2005, published in 2008. And that was showing we're over capacity. The developer hired some folks to run a traffic study when they were applying for Breezy Hill, and that was 2019. And that was also showing an overcapacity situation. We desperately need another traffic study certainly before any consideration is done of widening 250. We need to know what the situation is going to be, because I suspect it's going to be worse. And certainly the question is whether that should be done after the I-64 diverging diamond 250 is completed or not. But I think these things take time, and I would like to get the ball rolling on having a study made. Is that possible?
It depends, I guess, on what you mean by get the ball rolling and what you mean by the study. I would say that at this point, we probably do want to give time following the opening of that diverging diamond to see how traffic patterns change, to see if people change how they get into town based on that improvement. So I would, if you're asking for an analysis of like the constrained roadway or like a volume to capacity constraints on Richmond Road, I would say I don't think it's worthwhile to start doing that until the diverging diamond's been opened for a little while and maybe those traffic patterns have settled out a little bit.
But yes, but capacity is a different situation than avoiding an accident. The diverging diamond is designed to avoid accidents. Capacity exists regardless. There's still the same number of cars and vehicles going by. So I think the two things can be done concurrently, and that planning could be started and quest for funding be done by the Thomas Jefferson District Planning Commission and VDOT, which was done before, to get that study done. It's a capacity issue. The diverging diamond is not going to reduce capacity. Neither is the left turn situation in the roundabout. Capacity is still going to exist, right?
It could, but usually most roads, like say route 250 or a 2-lane road, if there were no intersections that you had to worry about, that could carry 20,000 vehicles a day without any constraints from intersections. So on most of our roads, it's not the corridor, or it's not the segment of road that's causing the congestion. It's the friction you get at the intersections. So with the diverging diamond, no, we're not adding capacity, but we are increasing the ability for vehicles to get through that interchange more quickly. And the reason they're doing that is because the two intersections that will be signalized there, they will only have 2 phases, whereas right now each one of those has 3 phases. So there's you can reduce the amount of time by 1/3 of the red light time for any movement on there. So you're going to be able to move more vehicles through there than you are currently. So that's really what I think the benefit. It's not just the safety benefit. There is a safety benefit, but there's also an operations benefit to that diverging diamond.
But it's not going to affect Route 22 and 250 and the convergence of traffic coming in that area.
No, but once again, that is something that we are looking at now. If that one of these projects should be able to once again move vehicles through that intersection more quickly. So that is once again, that is an operations improvement that we think will decrease congestion on 250 to make.
Whatever
these
happened to
changes.
your idea lastly to reverse lane directions in peak traffic conditions?
That's, I think, still an option that we could look at. Like I said, once again, I'd like to wait and see how traffic moves once this big, at least the diverging diamond is complete, see how much that clears out with the congestion. But if we find that a third lane is still necessary, I think that's still a really great idea to
That would
have that
be-
reversible lane.
That would be a disaster.
Well, wait before we determine whether it's a disaster, you suggested that 3 years ago.
More than that. That would be with the signaling and with the things you'd have to put up and the gates and the whatnot. I mean, it would be a big
I
deal.
would just like to even see it evaluated by professionals, but I haven't seen anything done beyond your statement, Kevin. Where is it? Is anybody seriously considering it or looking at it all? Or has VDOT said, hey, we don't want that?
Yeah, so we do have options to look at it. So one, I will say that the modeling work that will go into the next update to the long range transportation plan, they do model segments to see if the number of lanes can handle both the existing and future amount of traffic that we expect on there. So that is one thing that we'll look at that. They are just starting the process of updating that MPO long range transportation plan, or they're about to get started with it. They do that every 5 years. So it has to be updated every 5 years by federal regulations. So we're getting close to that 5 years. So they're going to have to kick that off very soon. So there is that. When you say, why haven't you done this, or why haven't you gotten to it? Really what's happened is what you see right here with this priority. So the last time I looked at that, that got ranked number 39. Based on those factors that we looked at, we did get number 2 funded, number 3 funded. So as I said, we have to put our resources and our funding to those highest priorities, because both of those things are limited in Albemarle County. So so we do move up. Now, when we reprioritize these over the next year, if that 250 segment that I've got listed as 39 right now, if we reevaluate that, it pops up there and it's up in the top, even if it's in the top 20, I think there's a good chance that we're going to want to look at that through a study like you described. We can get some other data from other sources like the MPO long range plan, and also like the VDOT studies that we do. But if it's a high ranking project, based on those metrics that we have, then we will do a full study, and that's the kind of thing that we put county money to accomplish.
Okay, I'd like to get to our master plan section. So Kevin, if you have nothing else, I want to thank you for coming here tonight and helping us understand what's going on with transportation in the county.
My pleasure. And I will look for the report on the traffic analysis for those intersections and get that out to you afterwards. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay. In the time we have remaining, what I wanted to do, Carolyn, I was wondering if you can put up the master plan slide I forwarded to you, master plan link.
Yeah, you want on a specific page?
Well, start with, I think, if you could put it on and I'll have you scroll down to it.
Hold on, it's gone down to page 50. 50, hold on, okay, let me shift.
Start with around page 7.
Can you see it?
Okay, scroll up, go back, go up, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Okay. Hold on, come down to executive summary. Vision, okay. So what we have here are edit proposals made by different members of the committee. If you could scroll up a little bit, Carolyn, you can see that Linda's are in orange, Betsy's in red, mine are in green, Paul is blue, Neil is in brown. I would say that the vision that we prepare and the vision that we edit here is the dictating paragraph or paragraphs that will kind of dictate what follows in a master plan. This is kind of a summary of what we're trying to do. So you can see that we have altered this, and we discussed this partially last week. This is Betsy's addition. I have changed and added area residents because the original master plan was prepared not only by residents in the village, but also people on the other side of Running Deer Drive who were living in Running Deer, since they were affected by it also. They attended meetings too. Is that correct, Linda?
That is correct.
Okay. Looking at this paragraph, the first paragraph in red, does anyone have any objections to it, changes, discussion?
Dennis,
Yes.
I know that it's come up before that we need to somewhere say what the village center is.
That's coming further. That's further down.
Well, I was also thinking that not only do we need that, but we may want to include what's in the village of Rivanna at this point,
Yes,
including Glenmore, Rivanna Village, Breezy Hill, west side of Running Deer.
I know, but right now, in the general vision statement, I don't think it's necessary to include that. It is included as we go down. And I agree with you. If you can scroll down a little bit, Carolyn, to the brown area. Okay. The village may include some local services, but not major community or regional services which are better provided in the urban area. And we added this, the village requires a linkage to the urban area and the city of Charlottesville by roads with adequate capacity. That definition refers to what is in the comprehensive plan, which is included in the definition of a village in the comprehensive plan. So we think that's important. That linkage has never been really provided. Further down, there's some changes you can see. It says the Village of Rivanna Master Plan is intended to provide guidance on where and how new residential and non-residential uses, instead of should be, we've substituted are to be developed in the Village of Rivanna. Is further, we left off development area and that said is further intended to make recommendations regarding necessary improvements to Route 250 that borders the development area on the north. That's the, you know where that is. Anybody have any comments on that? Objections, additions, or whatever? Okay, scroll down further, please, Carolyn. Okay. We have added, we have said a mix of housing types will be provided with the greatest variety of types to be located in the village, in Rivanna Village. Density will be radiated from the village center. Here's what you were talking about, Linda. From the village center, with lowest density is at the edge of development area. I think as we go down, if you scroll a little further down, Carolyn, you see that we say future residential development between the village center, which is in Rivanna Village. Does that satisfy your concern, Linda? The village center, which is defined as a separate entity in Rivanna Village?
Yeah, I suppose that'll work.
Okay, scroll up, please, again, back to where we were, Carolyn. Existing neighborhoods of the Glenmore development, Running Deer and in the Magruder subdivision are expected to retain their low-density character. The next sentence, we left off, we eliminated except for orderly future expansion of additions approved through rezonings. We just said the development of Glenmore is expected to remain unchanged. Why? Because it's fully developed. There's no more land. All the land is occupied. So this is. This is
And
truly-
the borders are set and they cannot be changed as
Right.
per the board of directors.
Right, it's an update as to what the situation is now compared to 5 years ago. 7 years ago, actually. Scroll down a little, please, Carolyn. Okay. It's a minor change where we get the future residential development in the village center, which is the Rivanna Village, and Carroll Creek will transition to the highest density near the center, to no more than 1 unit per acre east of Carroll Creek. Why are we saying that? Because that was what was in the, that was an inconsistency in the
Yeah.
existing master plan.
Right.
So it's 1 unit per acre. And I think in addition, we should say 1 unit per net acre.
Good plan. Yes.
Yes.
So, Dottie, if you can make a note of that. I
But
will.
then Dennis, don't you negate it with that next section? Future development is expected to be at the size and scale compatible with.
Yeah, it might be. We may want to edit that, Gina. This is just where we are now.
Okay,
So I guess what we'll say is 1 unit per net acre. Future development is expected to be of the size and scale comparable with existing neighborhoods. Okay, let's look at that. So let's say that a developer wants to add additional houses in the Breezy Hill area. The existing neighborhood in Breezy Hill is already going to be zoned at 1 unit per acre. So that says that future development in Breezy Hill would be 1 unit per acre with single residential houses. Because that would be the size and scale already approved.
but it also seems to me that the village of Rivanna isn't Rivanna Village, so the village of Rivanna is the cottages in Glenmore, it's the density of Rivanna Village, it's everything.
No, no, it's existing neighborhoods within the village of Rivanna. It's not the village of Rivanna in total, it's neighborhoods within. Where the neighborhoods is Glenmore, there's Rivanna Village, Magruder subdivision, the east side of Running Deer, west side of Running Deer, and Breezy Hill. Those are the neighborhoods.
Dennis?
Also,
Dennis, that's sort of what I was getting at, is that specifying the difference between Village of Rivanna and Rivanna Village, because it's really confusing to people.
Yes.
well, look at the previous paragraph. And look at the, how would you define it? How do you want the language to change?
With said neighborhood, so say Breezy Hill, they buy those extra acres, whatever, it can have the density of said neighborhood only, which is Breezy Hill.
How
To me,
about
that's,
adding adjacent neighborhoods? Instead of exist, or say a size and scale compatible with existing adjacent neighborhoods, just
Would
insert.
it help to list the different neighborhoods in the master plan? and say.
Well,
these
that we need to do that somewhere.
I think so, yes.
I guess some verbiage I came up with was the village of Rivanna includes Glenmore, Rivanna Village, Breezy Hill, the west side of Running Deer. We should probably add Magruder.
Gruder.
Village center is located within Rivanna Village.
Or we could have a sentence that says the existing neighborhoods in the village of Rivanna are, and then we list them.
Yes,
Why don't you put the boundaries in there?
What boundaries?
The village of Rivanna is defined by, to the north, Route 250, to
We
the,
have that.
that's in the next chapter.
It is in the next chapter. It's already in there. Okay, so we'll list the existing neighborhoods.
that's good.
Okay. Scroll down a little bit, Carolyn. Okay, thank you. Future residential neighborhood, residential development shall only be approved if and when transportation improvements to US 250 have been made and sufficient sewer capacity is in place. After hearing Kevin's presentation, I think that this sentence is insufficient because let's say they put in a roundabout. That's a transportation improvement. Does that mean that we could have future residential development? Or should future residential development be tied to capacity of 250?
I think that this has been discussed before. The bottom line is from in the village of Rivanna, 250 is never going to be wide. And that's kind of a fact. And that's you're beating a dead horse. So I suggest we take that out.
Other comments? Dottie wants to take that out.
I don't see how we can say it's never going to happen. You know, when we add another 4,000 cars a day, when Rivanna Village is finished, when Breezy Hill's finished, and each family has 2 cars and they're in and out a million times a day, I think they might have to expand it.
I agree. When things become crucial enough, whether that's in 5 months or 50 years, whatever,
Maybe 50 years.
there's a tipping point. And when that tipping point is reached, no matter when it comes, things can expedite.
Well, in reality, the first thing they're going to do is they're doing this interchange of 64. They'll give that a few years to see how that goes. Then maybe they might do something with Milton and that whole Shadwell area. They'll do one, give it a few years, see how that happens. Then they'll do the second one, see how that happens. And actually, if they do them both, it might make a big change. And as he described, they have to get funding for them and blah, blah, blah. So all these things, if they did all those 2 extra things, would probably take 15 years.
Keep in mind, Dottie, that this is our vision. Our vision should not be altered by what we think may or may not happen. We don't know
Reality.
and when.
No, when those houses are built, you know, when Breezy Hill is finished and the village of Rivanna are finished, and you get all those those cars on the road, you know, it depends on what happens when that happens. That they could expedite improvement of 250 or widening of 250 if there's total gridlock or multiple deaths occurring.
And Dennis, are
already
there
have most-
feasibility studies for this? You mentioned the developer Breezy Hill did a study. What's his estimate of the new traffic?
He said at the peak hours at Milton Road and 250, it was 113% over capacity. It was basically the same or a little bit more than it was in 2005.
But it has to be more.
They also have said that previously in 2000, when our first master plan was completed in 2010, they estimated that 2035 traffic is going to increase at least 50%. But these are estimates. The keep in mind, what else can be developed in the village of Rivanna? Outside of a few homes in Breezy Hill, there are approximately 100 acres that are owned by 12 individuals between Rivanna Village and Breezy Hill. They're all different plots, large plots. Sooner or later, the people that own those plots will die, and their land will either go to their descendants who will keep them or decide to sell them. That's what happened with Breezy Hill. That Breezy Hill owner passed away. For years, the descendants couldn't agree on how to split up the land. When they finally agreed, then it was put up for sale. And that same thing can go with the remaining 100 acres. So we have to frame our master plan that addresses what will remaining land that may be developed.
I have a question. I have a question. And Donna, if you're listening, I assume you're listening. This 100 acres is owned by various peoples. Let's say a couple of them get together and they get some reasonable plots and a developer buys it.
Yeah,
And the newest concept at the county now is the missing middle. And they decide, hey, let's just put in a bunch of missing middle houses. So they decide to do a bunch of townhouses and go 4 stories up. Can they do that? They could do that.
right now, the master plan says that land is 2 units per acre. Master plan.
Mhm.
What they would do is they applied for ZMA, if they went to
Right.
put up townhouses and they asked for more. Then we go through a battle as to what's in the master plan and what they want to do. The same thing as it was done with Breezy Hill. But that has nothing, in my opinion, to do with what we're trying to do here in the master plan. All I asked was, there's a sentence that says future residential development should only be approved if and when transportation improvements to US 250 have been made. Is that sentence too general?
Yes,
Yes.
Should it really say future residential development should only be approved if and when, for example, US 250 is designated as a Class C road?
yes, that's much better.
Okay, because Dennis, if it was 115% over capacity in 2005, and we've literally doubled the number of housing units in this area by the time everything's built out, then it's at least 230% over. So yes, then it would have to be a Class C road.
Dennis, would Class C, is that what you said?
Yes,
Dennis,
Okay.
could I address the missing middle comment?
yes.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the question. My understanding of the missing middle is it's in between what is approved already for your highest density and your lowest density. It would not be higher than what is already the maximum density, that you would have. It's basically the kind of the smaller houses between your detached single family and your multi-family apartment complexes. So they would be things like maybe a duplex or garden homes or those sorts of things. It wouldn't be higher density than whatever the maximum that already would be approved for that area. It's more to allow someone to stay in the area once you've made your ties to the community, rather than having to move to another area where they don't have maybe some of the smaller homes. But it's not really intended to increase substantially the height. In fact, I don't think it would increase the height at all. I think it goes to a lower profile than like if there were multi-story apartment buildings. Where I see middle density as being more important is more towards the different types of urban areas. Now, this is just me, Donna Price, still learning a little bit about middle density.
Read my newsletter?
I did read that.
Good point.
Yeah. So, not all development areas are the same. The Village of Rivanna development area is very different than Crozet, is very different than the urban ring. And so I would not necessarily see everything being applied to every single development area. That is somewhat helpful. At least that's where I am on it.
Well, I
Yeah,
think we have a situation in this where what we're talking about right now, and I'm kind of focusing on it a lot, and I brought it up with Kevin. I do see people walking down to jobs in Pantops. I know people who live out here and walk or bike, and it's treacherous. I mean, this one particular person I know, and there's more than one, but I know one. There's no other option. Walk or ride a bike. And it's exceedingly dangerous. And if we put more cars on the road and let's face it, the movement everybody wants to go in is less cars on the road, more bikes, more walking. We're not going to get a road widened, let alone bike paths and walking paths. I think we have to make sure that we're inserting the fact that we don't have pedestrian and bike space, period. So, you know, if we continue to build houses that bring more cars in and can't widen the road or provide for pedestrian or bicycle to alleviate the road, I think that needs to be a core part of a thread going through the master plan.
Yeah, Paul, those are good comments. I think there is a difference between the narrow, if you will, the narrowed widening for something like a bike or pedestrian path versus the broader widening for additional vehicular lanes. But that's a problem on all of our roads. They were designed during an era when we did not think about the consideration of anything other than motorized vehicles. And that's just a problem we have to deal with throughout, not just the county, but really in the country.
Well, if you look in this particular area, you don't have any side on the road. It's a mountain.
Yeah.
There's two lanes, and then there is, you know, the wall of the mountain going up or
down.
down. Yeah.
Ditches, yeah.
Well,
It's
and
not
I don't
easy
know
looking.
who owns the other land near the tracks, but it would seem that if it could follow close by the railroad track and down into town, it would be wonderful. I have no idea who owns this land.
I don't
They
know. I kind of want to get the conversation back to the
Yes, okay.
master plan. We're really treading far afield.
Well, I want to bring into this part of the master plan, not only that the roads are improved, but that capacity is made for walking and biking. I think that should be part of the plan.
Somebody made a comment, might have been Linda, that a path along a major highway where cars are going 55, 60 miles an hour would be dangerous in itself.
Yep.
Yes, definitely.
So
Like Gina said, it could be someplace else, you know, I mean, we're not the ones to determine where bike and walking paths are. We are here to say that there need to be them.
Just to add a bullet.
wouldn't that be better addressed when a development's going to come in place? When a development is applied for?
I think it needs to be taken into consideration. If it's not feasible, then that impacts how many houses should be built out here. How many more cars are we adding to the road?
There is someplace the bike is addressed quite a bit further back. But again, it doesn't address where to put it.
Look, folks, our master plan only addresses the village of Rivanna.
Yes.
It only goes from an area east of Shadwell Village up to Running Gear along Route 250. That's the northern boundary. Okay? We don't have control, and I would not put in our master plan any further paths that extend west from that area, because that's not the village of Rivanna. So the only thing we can control is whether to have a path. It doesn't go into town. It goes from Running Deer down to the village to Rivanna Village. And that's where a comment was made to have a path there along an area where the speed limit is 55 miles an hour might be dangerous.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm hesitant to put anything like that in our master plan. I think as projects are applied for, then they can be addressed.
I'll keep thinking about it.
Okay, that's fair enough. The word "and" has been crossed out when we talk about sufficient sewer capacity. After Breezy Hill, before Breezy Hill, there was capacity for around 300 more homes in the sewer plant we have. So Breezy Hill is going to be 80 homes. So any more building has to include the constraint that sewer capacity would have to it. And I'm not sure why Neil took that out, but I think
That was me, and that's just grammatical.
Yeah,
I put a comma there and take the "and" out and
I
then
see.
put the
and it
"and."
makes sense.
My bad. I understand what you're saying. I didn't look at it completely. Okay.
By the
Now-
way, I just asked just one thing. I remember several years ago when Rick was the commissioner. And one of the things he commented on was adequate school facilities. He made the comment that Milton Elementary, or whatever it's called, has plenty of room.
But it doesn't.
And it does, I have no idea.
It
It doesn't.
changes.
Well, that was like 2 years ago.
I'm not sure, and maybe Donna or Fred can comment on this.
My
I'm not sure.
recollection is Robinson currently has capacity. Mountain View does not, but I believe Stone Robinson does. Now, how long it will have that capacity, I can't answer. And that's just off the top of my head. I don't have any data right in front of me.
And that's why it should be noted. That's something we
Right.
want to make sure is there. If we're
Exactly.
looking-
Does it have, well, let me comment again. Does it have to be the master plan, or it could be adequately addressed if a project comes up and we say, wait a minute, the schools can't handle it?
It needs to be in the master plan.
I think in the master plan.
Okay, who's gonna
I
come up
don't
with,
think you can put that on a developer. That's just way too much to put the school on him. So yes, the master plan.
oh, it has been put on, it has been commented on development. Breezy Hill was commented on.
Well, it's commented on, but you can't expect them to
Fill
fund
the
it.
school. Yeah.
Oh, well, Breezy Hill was gonna give $500,000 to Stone Robinson. So they were concerned. But
Uh-huh.
if we want to put in the master plan, it's fine. Who's gonna come up with a language? I'm not.
It's already there.
Right there,
Yeah.
I already put it in.
It's fine the way it is.
What am I missing?
In blue on
Oh,
your,
I got it. It was a light blue. Okay, fine. Can you scroll down a little bit, Carolyn? Carolyn's still here? Here.
And awake.
Okay. When we get to this section, scroll down a little bit more, please. Betsy originally had in here paragraphs on the comprehensive plan and the master plan. And I'm missing something. Comprehensive plan, the master plan, and something else. We took those paragraphs out because remember, neighborhood model. I made a comment that the neighborhood model is something that addresses individual developments and not necessarily a master plan. Anyone want to comment on that? I didn't get any comments when that comment was made. Because what we're talking about is whether to include all of that stuff in the master plan. I mean, I think the comprehensive plan definition speaks for itself and will be a separate document. Our master plan, we're showing as a master plan. We're showing what it is. And the neighborhood model is something that by definition is, as I said in my note, goes to individual developments. The village of Rivanna is not constrained to a neighborhood model. Each individual, for example, Breezy Hill was originally shown as kind of a neighborhood model, but after all of the hearings and reviews, it became a 1 unit per acre development. So if it was in the Village of Rivanna master plan, it would kind of be in violation and would be constraining it. Everyone understand what I'm saying?
Where are you reading from?
Dennis, that's all in the next chapter.
We're looking at transportation and 6-lane highways
thought-
and whatnot.
Yeah, but I thought Betsy put it in this section. Betsy, speak
I
up.
don't think so.
Well, look, I inserted it, you took it out, and you thought we would address it in one of Paula's newsletters to explain to people what exactly the comp plan is, what the master plan
Right,
is, what
right,
the neighborhood model is.
right.
So they would have working definitions of those 3 terms in case there was any doubt in anyone's mind.
Right.
So at least in talking to people, no one really seems to get the difference.
The difference in the comp plan and the master plan are the focus of Paula's and my next newsletter. Definitions.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good. All right. Well, I think it's important to get those terms out and about so that they're familiar to most residents of the village in any event, so that when we refer to the comp plan, they know that we're not referring to the master plan. They know that the master plan is a component of the comp plan, and that
Right.
the neighborhood model
Right.
is kind of a loose organization of principles into which some of the village of Rivanna fits.
Right. Okay. If you look at near the top of the screen, you can see what we've done through your editing is we've made the language stronger. Centralized amenities such as pocket parks and neighborhood greens will be included instead of should be included. And may be challenged, that's how we feel. Floodlands, wetlands, stream valleys, and slopes shall be respected and preserved and enhanced as important features. Anybody have a problem with that?
No.
No.
Okay,
Well, it certainly makes the preservation and requirements a little bit more easily understood, because shall and should indicates that, hey, it would be nice if, but if you say will, that means you got to do it.
We expect it. Yeah.
I look at shall as being the same as will.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, I don't
Really?
know.
Yes, shall's a suggestion.
Will is much better.
Yeah, shall's an idea. Will is you will. It must.
If I say to my child, you shall behave, is the same thing as saying you will behave.
Not exactly.
There's a little interpretation on shall.
Well, let me tell you that my experience with county governments is shall is a very important word. Maybe our supervisor can comment on that.
I think, in my experience, shall and will are comparable. Differences between shall and should.
Shall and will are comparable differences.
Yeah, shall and should,
Yeah.
shall and will, I believe, are comparable. The
Okay,
distinction is between those two or should.
okay. So if they're of equal intensity or equal meaning, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think shall and will are comparable.
Okay,
And contrast would be should. I think should is a less forceful.
More ambiguous. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, in transportation, you see that we've eliminated things that are already being done.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Scroll down, please, Carolyn. Oh, come back a little bit, please. Okay. These additional access points are into Rivanna Village and Breezy Hill from 250 and from the, and I thought we had, there's a second exit, a second entrance into Rivanna Village, which is planned.
Right.
And there was confusion as to where that entrance will be. Originally, we said Hacktown Road. It's not Hacktown Road.
I thought it was across from A&W Antiques.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if
That's
we
it.
say, we can either say nothing, or we can say across from A&W Antiques, and then A&W Antiques goes out of business and doesn't mean anything. So is it important to say anything about it?
Probably
How
not.
about saying either
The
end?
access
of-
points into Rivanna Village?
But how about saying either end of that development? You don't want them too close together.
I'm trying to put this into language. What language would you say, Gina?
Well, one entrance is the very beginning of this development, so the other one has to be, people won't like it, nearer to Running Deer, right? Which is the end of that development.
No, there's one.
Oh,
That's
no, no, no,
Breezy,
not
that's
Running Deer,
Breezy
sorry.
Hill.
Rivanna Village, so I don't know what they're calling the streets in there, but
It's just the construction road right now. So it's not got a name.
and is that across from the A&W?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell
So
you,
I guess, yeah, we current construction road, a construction road in the plan, I don't know.
I don't think we
Doesn't
need
have
to
name.
go beyond two access points. I don't think that's
Yeah.
up to us to
Probably
define
right.
in this document.
I'm with
Yeah.
Paula.
Yeah,
okay, so we say 2 points of access into the village to be provided. Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
Thank you, Paula. Scroll down to page 8, please, Carolyn. Any additions or corrections on this? We eliminated the pedestrian crossing. That was in the old master plan.
Yeah.
Neil eliminated it because the pedestrian crossing goes onto his land.
And I eliminated it because it connects to Running Deer, and there's just no point in that.
Well, I have a question about pedestrian connection to Glenmore, because Glenmore is a private community, and if you can
Right.
go one way, you can go the opposite way.
That's right.
yeah.
So I don't know about a pedestrian connection.
We actually made that case when Rivanna Village was being heard before the planning commission. And we said that it's a road to nowhere. Because you'd be able to leave Glenmore to go into Rivanna Village. You couldn't leave Rivanna Village to go into Glenmore. Ostensibly because Glenmore is private. So.
Yeah, why is that in there?
So that should be out of there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because
mean,
they
I'm-
want this pathway to go all the way across 250, but again, where? And there are all those private homes right along 250. Are they just going to be
Exactly.
selling out, or what's happening there?
I don't think so.
I mean, we're a rural area. Not everything in a village is, as Donna said, not everything in a village applies to every single development area.
Can we just take out the whole paths part?
Well, if you take out the, what we were just talking about, then yes, the whole path part.
Yeah, the whole path
You're
part.
you're talking about eliminating those 2 sentences.
Yes.
Yes.
whole thing
All
out.
of it, all of it.
Okay.
Because you're either putting people out on 250 right next to the traffic, or you're putting a path in for private property.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Neither sounds like the best idea.
Next paragraph, new development should be transit ready. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It was in there before, right?
It was.
I don't know how you make new development transit ready. If it's very remote, that transit is going to be provided out here. There's
Yeah,
not-
Exactly.
too vague.
Dennis, can I ask, it's after 9
I think that the first sentence is fine because you're opening up. when
Yes.
You find it feasible. But there's hardly any new developments going to be made in the future. Hope you're taking notes, Dottie, to help me because I can't write all this down.
I got it. I got you covered, Dennis.
Thank you.
Dennis, it's after 9 o'clock. Could I just ask how much longer you think y'all are gonna go?
15 minutes.
We still have county staff here and
In fact, I'm ready to, could you scroll down a little bit, Carolyn?
You want to take out new development would be transit ready, correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to cover is future development proposed shall not occur until a traffic study of the US 250 corridor determining the capacity of highways rated Class C. Comment, should it be in there or not in there?
Yes, it should be, but didn't we address this earlier?
Yes,
I want to make sure we're all in agreement.
yes.
Okay. Okay, that's as far as we're going now. We have this basically wrapped up, this part. So,
We already, somebody said we already did that. Future
We did a
development,
couple of paragraphs ago.
right, future development should only be approved if and when
Since our
transportation
last meeting,
improvements.
I'm going
And it's a
over,
Class C road.
since our last meeting, things were added by different people. That's why we're reviewing it again. Additions put in, Neil's additions were put in, weren't in there the first place. Okay, Carolyn, you can wrap up that. Take that off. Okay. Community education program update quickly.
Our last newsletter went out, as you saw, to 1,006 recipients, about 10, either 7, 10, or 17. I'm not sure which. Substack was down today. I couldn't quite get updated statistics, but we had a fantastic open rate of about 73%. People consider 21 to 25% very good. We had few opt-outs. We had no new opt-ins that I could see. It was less than 1% that opted out. We did not have a lot of click-through, which means people didn't really click on the links very much, but we'll continue to include the links because that's basically, instead of a bibliography, that's where we get our information from. So why not just put it in as a link so other people could read further if they want to? And hopefully in the future, people will want to click on those a little bit more as they get a little more curious. We expect this to take a little time for people to build their interest and want to learn more. The idea is to tease them a little bit, to scare them a little bit, to surprise them a little bit, and hope that they will start to say, hey, this is an easy way to learn some things. We are basically spoon feeding them information that, obviously takes a long time for all of us. And I thank all of you for your contributions because everybody was really helpful, and Dottie for her contributions, and Linda figured out, she found Substack, figured out how we can get all this put together and the mechanics of actually sending it out to people. As Dottie mentioned, our next one, we were thinking about having it revolve around the definition of the master plan, the comp plan, and today we talked also about possibly adding the neighborhood model. What the heck is that? If you have any other suggestions, I'm happy to hear them now. I'm happy to hear them whenever you have them. Give me your thoughts.
I just like to ask Donna, is the neighborhood model still in existence?
I believe,
Is it used?
I can't tell you exactly where, but I believe it is still part of the plan.
Well, if it isn't, we won't put it in.
I'm sorry, county staff would be able to answer more definitively.
Well, we'll tap them up another day.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Paula.
Sure.
Oh, anyone have any new business to bring up? Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors updates.
Budget. Fred had to leave a little while ago. We had our either second or third budget session. We have 6 planned. That's really what we're working on. We do have a board meeting Wednesday. I haven't even had a chance to look at the agenda yet.
Okay. Any further business? If not,
Dennis, I just have one question. In the future, at some point, could we address noise as pollution? Because apparently it's not considered pollution in development in Albemarle County, and I think it should be. The noise is deafening in our backyard since all these things have been cleared and Rivanna Village and all, and at some point that has to be addressed.
is that something, Gina, you can inquire of the county in between this meeting and next meeting and find out?
Definitely. I just think at some point,
Yeah, what is
noise,
Gina, what's the noise? Jenna, what's the noise from?
the highways, because we've
Traffic
lost
noise.
over 100 acres of woods already
Okay,
between Clifton Inn and Rivanna Village, and they just keep cutting and clear cutting everything. And the
Mhm.
noise is, it's like living on a runway. So we're going to put in a fountain to try to kill it.
There are noise standards that the county has. You might look
Yeah,
on the
they-
website.
Well,
and,
I talked to Tori and she said if it's from transportation, it's not considered pollution. Shocking to me, shocking.
I don't think that we have the authority to regulate transportation noise on highways.
Well, no, but you could apply that to development. But we can put that off for another day, but it's just something for another day.
Okay,
Yeah, carry that flag with you through this process.
sorry we carried this meeting so long. I appreciate all of your contributions. I think we covered a lot and I think it was very informative, particularly Kevin's presentation. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, and 2 people
Second,
stuck through it with us to the
All in
end.
favor? Thank you very much, folks.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Good